battle, the wisdom that Lord Krishna imparts in Bhagavad Gita is not a temporary phenomena or even a cultural phenomena, as modern people define such things, but it is the eternal wisdom, the relationship between the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, and his parts and parcels, the living entities, the spirit souls, whom he claims in Bhagavad Gita to be his eternal fragmental parts. So he goes to great lengths in the second chapter to explain how we are all eternal spirits, not these material bodies, which we so stubbornly identify with and foolishly identify with also, under the spell of Krishna's external material energy called Maya. But Krishna also explains to us how this Maya, his energy, which bewilders us all, can be converted from matter into spirit by intention and by yogic practice. So he explains this very nicely in the 9th chapter of the Gita. The beginning of the Gita is a summary of the spiritual subject matter, and then Krishna goes on to explain karma and transcendental knowledge and yoga. But the 9th chapter is called the most confidential knowledge. So it is a very essential spiritual knowledge. And it kind of lies right in the middle of the Gita. So important wisdom is buried there right in the center of the Gita, where someone who is not attentive to what Krishna is saying in the Gita might not pick up on that. Of course, there are so many things as conditioned living entities that we don't understand or we don't pick up on. And that is the power of Krishna's external material energy, Maya, which creates like a wall between us and the Supreme. But it's explained in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, in the prayers of Lord Brahma, which is a very powerful chapter, the 10th canto, 14th chapter. Lord Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. We are members of the Brahma sampradaya, or the disciplic succession, coming from Lord Brahma, down through Vyasadeva and down through Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, and excuse me, Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who himself is the incarnation of Krishna, who appeared 540 years ago and vigorously propagated the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, which are recommended in the Vedic literatures, or as we say, Shastra, which means scripture, as the prime method of self-realization for the current age. There are 4 cyclical ages of time according to the Vedic paradigm. And in each age, there's a particular process of self-realization, as explained in the Bhagavatam. Kriteya dhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makai dwarpare paricharjajam kalota dhari kirtanat. In the Satya Yuga, which is the best of all the ages, conditions are very good for spiritual life, and people live a very long time, and neither do they have to work very hard to eat and to live. Nature abundantly gives everything. So you practically didn't even need agriculture, because everything is just growing like crazy, and you just pick it off the tree. Very nice, ideal. Like heaven. People think in heaven, yes, it's like these are grapes, and they're like nectar, but that is the material conception of heaven. And then there's also a concept given in the Vedas of the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, where the trees there are desire trees. So here, if you want to get a mango, mangoes are very nice, it's the king of all fruits, then you have to go to a mango tree. But the desire trees in the spiritual world are called kalpa vriksha, that they'll give you whatever you want. The desire trees, they're so powerful, they're so potent, they're so wonderful. They can understand what is your desire. So if you want an apple, it'll give you an apple. If you want a mango, you'll get a mango. Whatever you want, you can get from these desire trees. Of course, we don't see them in the material world so much. Yeah. Although there is different allusions to them, allusions, A-L-L-U-S-I-O-N, to these things in different literatures in different countries of the world. So in the spiritual world, everything is provided. And the Satya Yuga was like that. Everything is available easily. And the potency of like the fruits and the vegetables and the grains is like 1,000,000 times more potent than what things are now. Even one devotee I know was studying up on nutrition and how, for example, take spinach. The spinach that we have now is nothing like the spinach that we had available 100 years ago. The spinach 100 years ago was so much more potent and full of vitamins and minerals. So that's one of the characteristics of Kali Yuga. Everything becomes vitiated. But in the Satya Yuga, everything is in wonderful condition. And people live for a long time. And the process of self-realization was meditation on Vishnu. Kritaya Dhyayato Vishnu. Dhyayato means meditation on Vishnu. People nowadays try to do meditation, but it's not happening. People are unable to do meditation properly. They try, they think they try. They think they're doing something wonderful. And Prabhupada mentions this in the purport to the verse we're going to explain in a few minutes. So then the next stage, the duration of life was shortened considerably. And that is called the Treta Yuga. Tretayam Yajatomakai. People perform sacrifice in the Treta Yuga. Great sacrifices with tons of grains and ghee and gold and silver and just unimaginably wonderful. We do not see sacrifices like this now. We perform a little fire sacrifice. We have a little fire sacrifice pit about this big. You know, I have a few sticks that you get at the Indian store. Supposed to be the Arni wood, is it? But the Brahmins were so expert at doing these sacrifices, they didn't have like a big lighter to start the fire. No, they chanted mantras, and the fire poof, would manifest. They could summon the fire, like what Jimi Hendrix was trying to do at the Monterey Pop Festival when he poured lighter fluid all over his guitar, and then he lit it with a lighter or a match, whatever it was, and then he started like conjuring up, and the fire was burning. Well, these Brahmanas, they didn't, revert to any such trickery, but they were very powerful, and they knew how to chant the Vedic mantras properly and do wonderful things through that chanting, through sound vibration. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Shabdake Podoshamrishu. He says, I am the sound and ether, Podoshamrishu, and I am the ability in man. So those two are connected, the sound vibration and the ability of the human beings to chant the Vedic mantras nicely and produce wonderful results. Of course, in this age, we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. We'll come to that in a minute. Very powerful sound vibration that you yourself can chant that Hare Krishna mantra and achieve very powerful results in your own life. It is life-changing. It is so powerful. So the next age is the Dwapara Yuga, and that is the age in which Krishna appeared, right before the beginning of this age. And in that time, the process of perfection is deity worship. Again, not like the deity worship we're doing now, but much bigger, much grander, much more opulent. Gold, jewels, silks, no fake flowers, No having to go to Trader Joe's for flowers like we used to do. We don't go there anymore. Everything opulent, gorgeous, sponsored by the king, state-sponsored. This whole thing, separation of church and state, it's just a bogus modern conception. In the modern conception, what? God is dead, so you're on your own. Although I saw a bumper sticker today that said, God is not dead. So that was nice. That was good. But God is dead. That is the statement of the atheistic, faithless materialist who only have faith in one thing. What is that thing they have faith in? That's God. Yes, exactly. And they put it right on the money. In God we trust. All others pay cash. But the fact is, they're not trusting in God. They're trusting in their beautiful, gorgeous arrangements for sense gratification with factories. Although Prabhupada says the modern conception of industrial production, you cannot eat nuts and bolts. You can produce so many nuts and bolts in the factory, but what about the people that are starving? They cannot eat those nuts and bolts. But real spiritual life means growing food and having sufficient cloth, minerals, gold, jewels, all the natural opulences that this earth has to offer, and use those in the service of Krishna. That is the real thing. So those are the first 3 ages. And then finally we come to this age, the Kali Yuga, which is characterized by what? Kaler dosha nidhe rajan. Kaler dosha. It is like an ocean, this Kali. Nidhe means ocean. Kaler dosha nidhe. What kind of ocean is that? Is it a saltwater ocean? No. It's Kaler dosha nidhe rajan. It's an ocean of fault. An ocean of bad qualities. It's called the Iron Age of hypocrisy, in which hypocritical opportunists try to run the world for their own sense gratification, and meanwhile cause chaos to society at large. Does that remind us of what is going on in the world now? Certainly it does. We see, the Shastra was right. So even though it's an ocean of fault, Kaler doshanit hei rajan. Astyeko mahanguna. There's one great quality, mahaguna. A very great quality in this age. What is that? Kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha parambraja. That by chanting Hare Krishna, you can wipe out all the inauspicious things that impede you in your quest to progress in spiritual life. Mukta Sangha, you become free from all bad association, Param Vrajet, and you can go back home, back to Godhead. And so this verse I was thinking about in the Vedas states, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the first part of the verse. So right away, we didn't make up this mantra. It is coming from the Vedas. It is authorized spiritual pronouncement that's given to us. And then the next part of the verse, Idi Sodashakam Nam Nam Kali Kalmasa Nashanam Nata Param Tayo Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So that Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate, if you are a great scholar and you search through the Vedas, you will not find a means or a practice more effective than the chanting of the holy names. Idi Sodashakam Nam Nam. These 16 names, Kali Kalmasa Nashanam, they obliterate, they destroy all the pernicious effects that we see around us of the Kali Yuga. So therefore, our mission in the Krishna consciousness movement is to chant Hare Krishna and to encourage others to chant Hare Krishna and to vigorously propagate this chanting as far as possible. in every town and village, as many as there are on the surface of the globe. Lord Chaitanya predicted, my Habe Modana, my name will be heard in every town and village on the globe. Eventually, and already it has spread quite widely since Srila Prabhupada began preaching in the Western world in 1965, quite extensively. So, in this chapter 9 of the Gita, the most confidential knowledge, one of the verses, which I've always loved this verse, and have found this to be a very a significant verse by which one can live his life in Krishna consciousness. So there, Krishna tells Arjuna, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yad johosi dadasi yat tapasyasi konteya tad karushva mararpanam. He says that Yat karoshi, whatever you do, yadashnasi, whatever you eat, yad johosi, whatever you offer, dadasi, whatever you give. This da comes from the Sanskrit, which means to give. Same word as there in Spanish. When somebody in Spanish says, give it to me, dame, give it to me. So it is a very ancient word that's worked its way into other languages too. And it disappears on me. There it is. And then, yat tapasyasi konteya, whatever austerities you perform. Like, people do perform austerities, even though we think that's a kind of an archaic Vedic concept. But like a man works very hard, 2, 3 jobs to maintain his family. He's performing great austerities to get the results that he wants. Or someone goes to school and they study very hard. They're working very hard to achieve their goals. Or someone who is a musician, they practice. You know, there's the 3 rules in music. Practice, practice, practice. And that's the old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? You know, when you're a great musician, finally, you get to perform in Carnegie Hall. So how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. That's the mantra that they say in universities and in amongst musical instruction. So if you want to be good at something, you have to work at it. You have to perform austerities. Like my friend was studying the Sarod. He went to India. He lived in Calcutta under very austere conditions. He had a Sarod guru. He studied very hard. And then he came back and he kept studying and playing and playing and playing. And then finally he said, you know, somebody said, so how's it going with the Sarod? And he said, well, it is a very socially isolating pursuit. I don't have any friends because always I'm sitting at home practicing. And then there are legendary stories about famous musicians. When they were little kids, all the other little kids are out in the field with the baseball and the bat, and they're at home, you know, playing, practicing the scales and arpeggios and learning Beethoven, you know, and all these Bach and learning all these things. Everybody else is out having fun, enjoying, but they're working hard to achieve, and then they become a great artist, and sometimes they're rewarded for that, and sometimes they're not, depending on their karma. So everyone's doing austerities in one way or another. So whatever austerities you perform, whatever you eat, whatever you're doing, whatever work you're doing, whatever food that you're taking, whatever charity you're giving, tat karushva mad arpanam. Krishna is saying, mad arpanam, do that as an offering unto me. And this is really the essence of understanding bhakti yoga from the Bhagavad Gita. And I'd like to read, there's a very nice purport that Srila Prabhupada has given us. It's not a very long purport. And I'm going to read that, and then we'll discuss a little bit more. Srila Prabhupada says, thus it is the duty of everyone to mold his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of the body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live. Therefore, he should accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, which we will be offering you after the kirtan. Any civilized man has to perform some religious ceremonies. Therefore, Krishna recommends, do it for me. And this is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours a day by what? That's right, chanting Hare Krishna on their beads, around the beads, Prabhupada said. He is surely the greatest meditator and the greatest yogi, as substantiated in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Yogi nam apasarvesham madgatena taratmana shadavan bhajate jo mam same yuktatamo mataha. That of all the different types of yogis, there are many different types of yogis. Some yogis are trying to reach the super soul and achieve mystic powers, and some people are doing yoga for good health and this and that. But of all yogis, yoginam apasarvesham, sarvesham means all the yogis, that he, Ashradavan bhajate jamam, he was worshiping me in great faith and offering everything to me. He is the greatest yogi, and I consider him to be the highest of all. So if we want to do yoga, then we should do the yoga that Krishna recommends, which is the yoga of devotional service and chanting of the holy names. So that's this verse, and although it's a very short purport, it's very powerful. Prabhupada says that everyone should be giving their excess money to Krishna to further the Krishna conscious movement. And believe me, we have no shortage of wonderful ways to engage that money in Krishna's service. We may not have unlimited funds. What we have is an unlimited lack of funds. And we just manage to carry on here, support ourselves here at the temple with Govinda's restaurant, which is very wonderful and has really been the key to opening a lot of doors for the Krishna consciousness movement here in Tucson. Some of you may or may not know, we just acquired the Mini Hands Courtyard. Next door to us, just north of here, is a vacant lot, which is our property, free and clear, on which we plan to build a new temple and a cultural hall for the service of Krishna and the glorification of the deities. And then just north of that property is another property called Mini Hands Courtyard, which once was probably an old, funky Tucson-style motor court motel. And currently it's a little artist courtyard. I mean, there's a apothecary, a bookstore, a masseuse, a potter. The one fellow just moved into one of the spaces. He's does some kind of herbal thing. He's got some kind of herb that you put it on you, and then no pain, everything heals, and you live for like a really long time. That's what he says in his advertising. I was reading it today. But he's a nice fellow. I'm going to try that stuff out. All right, let's get to check it out and see if it works. But he's very sincere. And it's a very sweet place with a very nice atmosphere and a very sizable mortgage. But all our other properties, by Krishna's grace and by the help of some special devotees, one devotee bought the land next door, paid it off, and then gave it to the temple free and clear. So that devotee apparently understood the purport of this chapter 9, verse 27. Whatever you offer in charity, whatever you give away, whatever work you do that as an offering to me. And the down payment for our Many Hands property came from the estate of a devotee who gave everything she had in this world to the temple, even to the point of disowning her own children, who she was distant from for a long, long time, for decades. And it even said in her will, for all intents and purposes, they are considered dead to me. I'd never seen that before. I guess it's some kind of legal language. You're dead, you don't get nothing. So when my own father passed away, I inherited exactly nothing. But he had married for a second time, and he gave everything to his wife, who had been his wife for like some 40 years. And he was fairly successful, the businessman. But I appreciated it, at least. I wasn't envious. Hey, how come I didn't get anything? You know, she gave my brother he was a veteran, buried cremated, and his ashes put in a veterans cemetery park. And she gave my brother the American flag, which was presented by the airmen who were there at the ceremony. And then he also got his dress uniform. He was a colonel in the Air Force, so he got the colonel stripes. Actually, it's a bird. It's an eagle, and they have two levels of colonel. The higher levels has the eagle, and it's called a chicken colonel. So he was a chicken colonel, full colonel. And I got exactly nothing, even though I carry the name Junior appended onto my name. It didn't do me nothing. But I appreciate it. Hey, you know, she was his wife for 40 years. She put up with him. I wasn't there the whole time. He visited occasionally, but you know, I wasn't taking care of him. I wasn't consoling him. I wasn't helping him build his life. I wasn't, you know, working and contributing to their. So I appreciate it. Well, you know, hey, she deserved it. She earned it by her karma, so she could retire nicely. He had everything set up. He was a good manager, and he had everything set up so all this money from these different places he worked all came in these payments to her on his passing away. But one time, I went to visit him. He was living in New York City, and the executive VP at American Express Corporation, in charge of the Traveler's Check division, which they later moved to Utah, which was his project. And I spent a little time with them in their very nice apartment. It was a 3-level apartment in a building in the East Village. And my stepmother used to say, she was from the South, I feel perfectly safe walking the streets of New York City. And this neighborhood was known for being a gay neighborhood. She said, but I worry about your father. He's a very handsome man. So anyway, I visited them, and we discussed very extensively the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And he had a change of heart. And he appreciated that. I was on my way to India at that time, and he said, well, look, son, he got me alone when my stepmother wasn't there. And he said, do you need any money for India? Or, you know, I said, well, I'd like to buy a harmonium. And he said, how much would that be? I said, 500 would cover it, which 500 in those days, we're talking about, you know, more than 40 years ago, was a lot more than it is now. And he said, okay. He got his checkbook and he wrote me a check. He gave it to me. He said, don't tell your stepmother. So he surrendered to Krishna. He wanted to surrender to Krishna, at least a little bit. Later, they both became big fans of prasadam. And the Atlanta temple, they had ended up in Atlanta, and there was a not very nice restaurant in the Atlanta temple. It was kind of pretty funky. Some Bengalis there were doing that program, and it really didn't have a good space, and it wasn't anything like our Govindas, which is very first class. But despite that, my father and his wife, who were, you know, well-off people, they used to go there sometimes and take prasad. And my stepmother especially loved dal. So that was to their credit. They got some contact with Krishna, but he at least surrendered that one time. And he actually helped me do a couple other things. I had an old beat up Chevy van, and I was passing through one time. He said, well, let's go over to the mechanic. He said, I got this good mechanic. We'll get some things done on your van. So we're riding back from the mechanic in his car. And he said to me, he said, I think all these Western religions like, Christianity and Islam and Judaism, he said, I think they're all pretty bogus. They're not, they don't really have the answer. They don't seem to follow the practitioners. They don't seem to have anything really going for them. He said, I think the real truth is like the Eastern religions like Hare Krishna. He said that to me. This is a man I had to practically argue with for my life to convince him of Krishna consciousness. I almost fell out of the van on the passenger side. He said that, what? He had a change of heart by service and surrender, even though he wasn't, but he did chant the holy name. He said, Hare Krishna. I think the real truth is Hare Krishna. Yes, I think you must be right, Dad. So he turned around like that, and then finally he left his body, and we don't know where he's gone to now. But he got an opportunity to take prasad, serve Krishna, and chant the holy name. So surely his destination is much improved from what it ordinarily would have been, or from the life of a determined sense gratifier. All right, so we'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations, briefly, if it's relevant.
I just have a quick mention. Thank you. You were talking about spinach being so much more quality 100 years ago. Things were a lot better quality ages ago. I just heard a devotee say that this is the reason that Ayurvedic medicine was better back then, doesn't work as well as you might think.
Well, there's hardly anyone that knows how to practice it also. Oh, you come to me, I'll cure you, I'll give you some herbs, but those herbs, and he doesn't know. And just like astrologers, there's so many astrologers and they don't seem to know anything. The funny thing about the astrologers, always advising everyone about getting married. I know this one astrologer, longtime astrologer, studied in South India. He's helping everyone find the right partner, get married. That's like the big business of the astrologers. Do your compatibility chart. And then he finally found a partner, got married. It was a complete disaster. And you were going to advise me? I think I'd do better on my own. So, everything has gone down. Even, they lament that they just don't make stuff in America. They don't make stuff like they used to. Like they used to make stuff and it would last forever. Like a toaster or a refrigerator, would last for 40, 50, 60 years, still work, weighed about 500 pounds. And it was made with great pride and craftsmanship. And now everything is just, cheap and plastic, and it's not made to be repaired. You can't repair it. It breaks, you have to buy another one. It's just crummy junk. So that's the standard. Kali Yuga is, we could say, progressing, but it's actually regressing the quality of life. So the only thing we can do is to chant the Hare Krishna mantra to ameliorate the situation of our suffering in this age. All right, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.